The one thing this model just needs is 2 more inches. Howdy, I'm Matt. Bet you've missed that, haven't you? Right, do you recognise this model down here? I hope you do. You should do. I would have thought you do. It's the Reptile Dragon. It's a model which has been quite recently out. And ironically, this is a dismantling video, not a build video. And also, unfortunately, I don't have any build flight footage for you either, other than I can tell you point blank that I have flown it. There are a few marks of evidence that it has seen some action. And while I'm taking it apart, I just wanted to share a few thoughts with you because I know many of you out there have seen it and have kind of wondering whether it's worth buying it, and those of you which are in the RC Rebels group may recognise the model as well, because I posted a couple of photos in there. Right, so let's just cut it down to the essentials, which are should you buy this model or not, yes or no. And as always, that is a very subjective question and answer, which is that I feel, and you probably feel as well, that if you like the look of the model and it's within your budget, then frankly you should own it. Now, there are obvious exceptions to that rule if it's a bad model. Now, there is some irony here for you, which is that I literally spent a day building it. I flew it twice, well, 1.5 times, and now it's going to go on to a new home. So it's going to be a little bit hard for me to recommend it to you, although I just want to make the point is that once we sorted out its fundamental issue, and I just can't believe we're having this conversation, we've had this conversation so many times before, is that it just needs, the one thing this model just needs is 2 more inches. The one thing this model just needs is 2 more inches in the nose, and that's what she said. Why does it need 2 more inches in the nose? Is because this is a plank model. Okay, so you have a large wing with a vertical stabilizer and no horizontal stabilizer at the back. That's basically makes it a plank wing, because it's a straight wing, not a flying wing where we got some angle in there. And as such, plank wings, as you may or may not know, are extremely susceptible to centre of gravity. And the centre of gravity, which is printed in the documentation, is wholeheartedly wrong. It says, in the documentation, it says 48 millimeters from the leading edge. Actually, this is more like 38 millimeters from the leading edge, and even then I would strongly suggest that you go down to 3 centimeters from the leading edge for at least your maiden, and then go very careful moving backwards, because one thing which a plank wing has been notorious for, and that is that if it is tail heavy, my goodness me, it is wild in the sky, to the point that it's unflyable, and that's why I ended up stuffing it. I purposely didn't take a video camera with me for the funny farm on the weekend, although I did take a couple of videos on the phone of a couple of bits and bobs, and you may or may not see that in some time in the near future. However, the second time
Get out!
around, we put a massive, great big it's just great big nut on the front of here and taped it on, and that was enough with a 5200 4S battery rammed right up into the nose. That was enough for us to hit CG. And also note, I'm using Sunny Sky, what's it, the 2216 1250 kV motors on there, so I had extra weight in the motors and that battery up in the nose and that great big lump of steel on the front of it, and I just about hit CG. So yeah, 2 more inches in the nose would have given this model far more flexibility in the types of batteries that you could have put in here. A, you could have put more battery in here, and B, you could have a wider range of batteries which you put in here, and B, it would have caused less frustration for not only me, but might be you or somebody you know who's owned one and then found out the hard way how much lead you have to put in the nose. And because we found out how bad the CG was, and how far forward and how wrong the manual was, is that when it came to Austin, got himself one as well, and his maiden, perfect, flew like an absolute dream. And the two things which I learned, which was that CG is massively important, and these Sunny Sky motors, I thought they were going to be a really good choice. I need to put my hands up, I was wrong. Some little 2205 2300 kV motors would be absolutely perfect for this model. I think Julian in the RC Rebels group, he mentioned that he was using some 2306 1772 kV motors with triprops or something like that. That would be a perfect choice for this. And of course I ran into no issues with the propellers hitting the ground and stuff like that, because I put the brakes on the ESC as I would do as on a flying wing or a normal model, so the second they came into landing it just knocks the propeller out of the road, out of the way. Oh, one other thing is as well, and I feel it was really unfortunate actually, with Austin's model. What happened is that he landed his model, and it was just an unfortunate landing, and the tail snapped off back here on the joint. I was like, oh Austin, you screwed up, you didn't screw in the 4 bolts at the back. And he said, no Matt, I did, you wait till you see it. And we had a look, and he had screwed in the 4 bolts. It was just really unfortunate landing. It had come in on one side. Of course, I'd also seen other people's comment about the CG being a potential issue, and even knowing that, I still ran into problems as well. I didn't realise how bad it was going to be. So I did keep away from putting a servo in the back of the model, because that was going to add extra weight, and you would have noticed that there's an Eagle Tree Vector in this model too, because I did fully plan to use this one more, and some of which I could potentially fly from home, hint hint. But the reality is that really didn't turn out to what was happening. And yeah, anyway, getting back to Austin's, his tail did snap off. I do class that as just completely unfortunate. His was also not laminated, I hasten to add. And I also did find, I'm struggling trying to get this one apart now, I also did find that it did take, as much as that we did break the nose, it did take quite a slap in the nose. And as such, it did alright, considering the whack which it did take into the ground, because it was just so wild in the sky. So, there's me singing its praises, but also just be fully aware. I'm actually giving this one over to Andy. I did decide that I liked the model, but I did not like it enough to keep the Eagle Tree Vector in here. So I have Vectors in my Mini Talon, in my Nano Talon version 1, which has got the flatwing mod in it, and it's those two just absolutely amazing. And you may have noticed this bright big chunk of orange stuff to the right hand side. I need an Eagle Tree Vector, and I want it to go in there for the things which I want to do with it. I don't need 3 long range models, and this one really doesn't, for me personally, doesn't bring anything really. What we're doing here basically is, what I'm trying to say to you is that I like the model. Once you got the CG sorted, it needed 2 more inches in the nose. It's just a prime example, another prime example of money and time not best spent. The model's very well moulded, very well thought out, except for the point that they obviously didn't fly it. They must have had to put lead in the nose. Even the run, if you put a GoPro in the nose, you still have to add bloody weight to the nose. That's even with a 5200 forest in it, so really frustrating. So I like the model, it flew okay, but in the reality, it's not. I'm actually doing a direct comparison to the Strix Goblin, which I've managed to pick up, and I want that, and I don't want that. Does that make make sense to you? It's not a terrible model. Fuck me, there's been some shit models out there. It's not one of those. if you bought this and got the CG sorted, you'd be quite happy with it. Alright, so that's, I'm going to go on and take this apart. It's going to hang around. You might see Andy flying it at some point in the future. You can see that if we have a look here in the centre fuselage in the model, you will see I spent the time, literally a day, building this, including the custom wire and loom out to the wing for the receivers, the video transmitter and all the bits and bobs in there. So I did put the time in it. I gave it everything which I thought was it needed, and it did. In the end, it did fly well. But when I left the farm on Sunday, I'd kind of decided that was the end of it, and especially because I had this one in the car, so that's where the vector is going to go. It's going to go in that one, and it's going to come out of this one, and it's going to go onto a nice home where it'll be loved. And again, Andy liked the look of it. Austin's got one, so they can fly together with it. A couple of little daft points is that it's nice moulding, but you definitely want to laminate it, especially because it's a bottom lander. And also, as I saw the tail come off, Austin's laminate would definitely be a benefit here in the background. For goodness sake, go careful of the centre of gravity. 38mm from the leading edge. A little bit more if you can. Tons of lead in the nose needed, even with a 5200 4S pack. And I don't have one here spare, but another tip for you is that if you get a carving knife and carve out underneath here, you can fit one of the multi-star 5200 4S packs in over the top of this rail here, and then get it in, and it will fit up underneath there. So yeah, if you just carve a bit of foam out underneath there, you can get a 5200 4S in there quite easily, in short. Another thing for you to go very careful with is the motor mounts. You'll see my motor's in there really well now. You'll notice that I'm using the word now. When it arrived here, one of the motor mounts came off my hand, so I re-glued it. After it had mating with some sweet corn, is that both motor mounts came loose, well, one of them again, so we had to put some hot glue around them. So if you've got one of these kits here on your desk and you're putting it together, pull off the motor mount in your hand, because I think it will come off quite easily in your hand, and then re-glue it with some decent quality glue. And hot glue would work really, really well if you've got it, or maybe something like Yoo-Hoo Pour would also work really, really quite well too. So there you go, that is the Reptile Dragon. Mixed views, doesn't suit me perfectly. The things which I did learn was that it does need laminating, B, you need shit tons of lead in the nose and the centre of gravity is wrong. It also needed 2 inches in the nose. Those of you which are maybe a little bit more crafty than others, what you could do is maybe extend this nose out yourself. Don't know why they didn't do it, I just don't understand it. Maybe we were discussing it on the day, maybe it was because the billet of aluminium they were using to mould this model it could only be a certain size, so adding 2 inches on would have added so much more money to the mould making process. That's the only thing which we could come up with of why they didn't do that, because anybody in their right minds who actually developed and tried flying this model would have found that out really straight away. And the other one is that you can swing an 8-inch prop. Does work out really well. Oh, and the wings are held on. I didn't mention that. It's just like a mini Talon. There's a Allen key underneath there which grips the main shaft through the middle, the main spar, and it holds the wings on really tightly. One little tip for you is that I'd also cut out some recesses in the wings themselves, so you can actually get your connectors, and then when you're putting the wings together there's loads of room for the cables to get hidden away. Besides that, definitely portable. You could get it into a backpack with a bit of a push, although to be honest that lump and the 2 wing sections don't really amount to much at all. So there you go, a little mini review on the Reptile Dragon. 50-50 from me. It flies good, but it's got some issues. Does that make sense? And on that note, you may see that one in some time here in the future. Anyway, good to chat. I'll catch you soon. From myself, Matt. Cheerios! Stop wobbling, you prick. Come on, stop wobbling, and then we can start. Finally, thank fuck you. Right!